Okay, should see that's recording now. Okay, so over to you, Sanjoy. Thank you.
Yeah. So, as Philip said, a very quick review of what we did, especially in the last few months. So, as you all know, we've had that training, and participants from various regions went through that. Now, the whole idea of this is that we get the feedback from them. That is what the training was all about, the fungicide sensitivity training. Now, as far as I understand, in Asia, this is the time for sowing and growing of the crop in winter. Most of Asia, not all. And so if they are going to do that fungicide sensitivity back in the region, so this is the time to do it. Because if they miss this window, it'll again be the next year. Of course, if you leave, as I said, most parts of Asia will be again next year. So I think that is something we need to emphasize. Uh, I would request Philip to sort of send out a mail and sort of emphasize. And if they have any problems, like exactly where they are facing the problems, so they can always get back to us or me. I could sit with them, individually to sort of iron out those differences exactly where, like, for example, what's her name from Philippines? Jeannie, yeah, Jeannie, yeah. So I think she got in touch with me 2 days back. She was having some problems regarding this fungicide sensitivity thing. So what I'm trying to stress here is this is the time to get the results. The training's over. Now we need to get the results back, and this is the time to get it done. I think we have a window of maybe 1 more month maximum. Within that, we must get, and so that needs to be emphasized. And the reason why we are doing this also is very obvious to all the scientific committee members. I'm not going to revise that because this needs to be linked with the FTA cards that is already there with CCAP. So that data needs to be linked with this for effective management. So that's the first part. And I think that's all I had to say regarding what we did. But what we need to do is more important. Especially, we need to get the results, and that I keep on stressing over and over again because the window is very short, just 1 more month. So over to you, Philip.
Yeah, okay. So basically the emphasis is that we need to get things rolling very quickly. So in terms of practical applications, so people have had the training. How is it that now everybody should start, doing applying it in their regions? So does anybody have any follow-up questions to maybe what the point of what Sanjoy just made and potentially any training that was had last year? Any questions regarding that? Or everything's completely fine, you don't need any help, and it's great.
No, I think, Philip, not everyone's
Yeah.
represented here because there are a lot of
Yeah.
regions who took the
Mm,
training. So maybe some of
mm.
them also might have some problems. So all of us are not represented here. So
Right.
this is not like a sample, not the whole population, of the
Right.
trainings. So
Population.
so so
So,
if
Yeah,
you
so I
if they
think
people.
I
have
think
problems, they can always get in touch. Dr. Fry is
Right,
there.
right.
Everyone, all of us are there. We can certainly help.
so maybe we should send a reminder to all of them right now, or maybe
Yes,
you did
yes.
already, or at least to those who
Um,
participated. Huh?
Yeah. Have you heard from many people or just one or two about
Um, Me, is it to me?
difficulties?
Okay. No, I have actually not heard from anyone other than Jean from Philippines, and I think the mail has it been. I think Philip did send out a mail once saying that we need to do it in the first quarter. I don't exactly remember. So that mail, as Francois says, has to be sent out and sort of pushed that we are losing the window very fast. You know, so we need to do it quickly. I mean, and I'm sure when they do it, they'll have some problems. It's which is natural, and and then we can help them also if they contact us.
Yeah.
yeah, from my side, I haven't had any contact with anybody. Nobody's sort of sent out any emails asking me for more information or anything like that. Um, I mean, when I was still in China, I think the only thing that I got was some people having concerns about, you know, the need, yeah, actually. So, I mean, I think that we still may find that there's some resistance from some sides of it, but I think we shouldn't concern ourselves with that too much. We need to sort of move ahead with the plans that we have. Yeah, so I think that, Francois's point about communicating again the expectations of, the scientific committee's plans for 2026. I can do that. That's not a problem. And then presumably, if anybody has any problems with that, they should get in touch. But excuse me. But I think the important point will be that we communicate this in the next follow-up meeting. Excuse me.
Could you remind me
So
again of what the data will be used for, and what will happen to the data once they are acquired?
you want to do that, Sandra?
So, yeah. So as far as I understand, this will be very region specific. So since what we've asked them to do is look at the sensitivity of the fungicides which are used commonly over there, whether it is effective or not. So let them come back with the data. So that's the preliminary part. Once they have that, then they can easily sort of recommend that this works and this does not work on a very rough scale also, without exactly going into EC50s and everything. They can say, okay, this works and this does not work. And the second part of that is when that data comes back to CCAP, because they already have the population profile, or they are in the process of getting the population profile of those populations in those regions. So those data can be sort of connected that, okay, we got these fungicide sensitivity from this region, and we also have the population data from this region. So probably could connect that, okay, this region has this population and this population has this sort of fungicide sensitivity. And that would be a more robust picture, and we can have some new associations also of the fungicide sensitivity with populations. That's the second step. The first step, of course, is the primary thing is to first know the fungicide sensitivity, that immediately you can translate it in the field. That's as far as I understand.
But there's not a collaborative or cooperative or cohesive effort to compile the data and share them or do something more with the data. Is that right?
Cohesive in this, it is certainly cohesive in the next step. The first step is, as you are very well aware, it's the regions who are doing it separately.
Right.
That data is being transported. Transported is not a correct word. Is being sent to CCAP, and the CCAP already has the the fact that they are sending all the regions are sending the data to CCAP. That is the cohesive part. And the CCAP then connects it with the population data that they have. So that is where it all comes together, fits in.
Okay, and Philip, you mentioned that some people were questioning the need for it. I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
Can you help me with
Well,
that?
so look, can I? Yeah. So basically, yeah. I mean, we encourage independent thought, right? But I think that, I think there was one occasion when I did share an email with the regional representative for China, so that's Mr. Cher, and he did say, well, why are we doing this? What's the need for this anyway? So, I mean, it's his choice, right? But I think that I did say, well, this is something that would be important for the whole AsiaBlight community, helping everybody to understand, more of the problems that exist in terms of fungicide sensitivity. But I don't think that he really took hold of the bigger meaning to that. Yes, Sandra, yeah.
So a quick response would be, it would save immense cost on the fungicide trials. That would be, I think, what he's wanting is more on the field. He wants to see like how does it make a difference. I think that probably was his concern. So on the field, the first difference it makes is he saves on fungicide trials, by doing the sensitivity test. That's number one. Number two is, of course, you have a better management strategy by knowing exactly what works and what does not work without going into fungicide trials. So I think that was his perspective to, like, how does it work in the field? He thinks that this is all academic. It has no translational benefit. I think that is the sense I got, because when we had that interaction, all of us were there.
Yeah.
So I think that was his point of his concern. I think he wants more translational output. So this is how
Yeah.
it can be. I think.
Yeah, I think also, but I think his other concerns were that companies would not like this because they don't want to see how effective their chemicals are being. And so I think that there's an area of potentially less impartiality, maybe. I'm not sure whether that's the actual. I don't think you'd agree with that, but potentially there is that. Francois, you know Mr. Chiro quite well. Do you think that could potentially be an issue? His concern, at least. Could you think that could be?
Maybe, but I don't think it's the main issue. I think the main issue is that companies are expecting more guidance. Companies and farmers are expecting maybe more guidance. So of course, I understand very well that we need to have these information about resistance of strains, but we also have to provide some results, which may not be research results, but we have to play a role to better train, to better implement activities that might be effective in the field. And so, of course, the information on resistance is one element, but it is not sufficient. So it should be a part of the information that we provide to farmers or groups of farmers or companies. And I think we should come back to an idea that we had discussed a little bit last time already, which is to try to describe I mean, not extensively, but as precisely as we can, region by region. I mean, we call them potato production basin. So each potato production basin should be identified, and in each potato production basin, we should try to see what are the things that are lacking most. So sometimes it may be knowledge of resistance of the strains that are present, but sometimes it can be just a very basic training about safe use of pesticides or something like that. So I think we really need this kind of geographic description of the different production basins, and it should not be a country description. It's not summarizing the whole central India production area. That's far too big. It should be operational basin by operational basin. So a place where a team is working, not a small team, but for example, I think in China it could be at least at the provincial state level, and India may be at the state level. But we should have a kind of description of what is the situation there. And I think we would be surprised to see that maybe in one state of India or in one province of China, things are very well under control or much better under control than we think. And in the next state or the next province, maybe there is nothing and it's a terrible mess. And I think we don't have that tool. So I think it's a next step that we should carry out is trying to make a list of all these potato production basins. And some will be very small and some will be very big. And try to identify there. And I'm quite sure that in some of them, the resistance of the strains will be major issues. But probably there are several or many others where there are other problems, and for which maybe we have already some solutions. And also I think that by doing that, we will be able to kind of create families of production basin, like all the production basin which are it should be something like geographic or biogeographical regions or agricultural regions with a quite similar climate, like mountainous, so valleys in mountainous area with subtropical climate, and then we have something very different, which are aridic plains or temperate plains, and we could kind of create families of potato production basins which may have similar problems and maybe also similar solutions, and then share the existing solutions between that family of potato production basin. Because when we mix, when we discussed during the training with the partners, I found one of the characteristics is that there are several partners which had very similar conditions, like the lady from Iran and the lady from
Negar.
Sorry? From where?
Negar? Negar?
Yes, Negar.
From Iran.
Negar from Iran, and then Gulnaz from Kyrgyzstan.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
right.
the guy from Syria, I think. They seem to have pretty similar production
Iraq?
conditions. Yes, Iraq.
Yeah.
But they are completely different of what we are meeting in Malaysia or Indonesia. It's nothing to do, nothing to see with each other. So of course there remain some common aspects, but in the practical management it will be very, very different. So I think we should think about making this kind of geographical census of the basin. And in some basin, we will see that we have almost no data. We don't know who is working on lead blight there, and we don't know if it is handled properly or not. Then, of course, in a later phase, we can try to find out this information. But of course, in some area, we will have very precise data. And in some of those areas, maybe we will have groups that are managing very well. And I think these are the groups that we should identify so that we can extend their experience to the other members of the same family group, if you want. I think this would maybe provide a more practical answer to what the show was relaying as a question. What are we doing for the farmers? I understand very well that knowing the resistance is very important, but it is only one element, which is probably very relevant in some places, but probably too far from the actual problem in many other places. And I think that's why he was asking that question. And I think it is relevant to say some it is not interesting because they are not advanced enough to benefit of that updated training, yes, and updated knowledge. In some places, the farmers are even not aware of the necessary preventive action. They just spray when it's raining. They spray. So there, of course, the basic training have to be started first.
Sanjoy, would you like to react to that?
Sorry, excuse me, Philippe. Just one more point, which I think is very important, is that the availability of the fungicides is very important, because when talking about the resistance, of course, it depends on what fungicides are available, and if fungicides are with high level of resistance appearing, are present in some regions, this would be very important to inform the operators in that region. But in some regions, those fungicides are not present. They are just not distributed. Sorry.
No, don't apologize. No, please. No, okay. Sanjoy, would you like to follow up with that?
Yeah. So Okay. I was just trying to remove that raised hand, you know.
It's okay,
Okay.
don't worry. It goes away
So yeah,
automatically.
Franco has put in quite a few points. So
Yeah.
let's start with that common basin idea. So of course we see that, you know, like West Bengal and Bangladesh, there are a lot of similarities regarding the crop, and of course they use a different cultivars than us, but it's more or less similar in many aspects. Uh, but we also have to consider the fact that this is a very politically heterogeneous, geographical heterogeneous region. The basin will cover many regions. That's number one. And how you're going to coordinate that is it'll be a big challenge. Sorry, you know, this is a microphone. You know, people peddlers they use this. You know, some propaganda is going on. Anyway, this will go away in like in a few seconds. Yeah. So the next thing is because it's the next thing is many of these regions have their inbuilt systems, you know, inbuilt scientific systems, inbuilt scientific networks. Government have those. So we in that way we are sort of outsiders. You know, we would be sort of interfering in the system. So are we welcome there? That's another important thing. Or are we integrated with them? You know, I'll just take one quick example. For example, India, CIP India, there's a network and there is an ICA network. So are we integrated with them? So there are similar such networks in almost all the Asian countries. Some may be having not a very good network. So are we duplicating the efforts, or are we sort of you know, infringing on their work? So those things also need to be considered when we try and map those basins. And not most important of all is who's going to do that, because most of us are doing things on a voluntary basis, uh, and it needs a lot of resources. I'm sure all of you are aware, you know, how much resource it needs to get those things done. So of course this is an excellent idea. Maybe I'm not saying we should not do this. I'm not saying that. I say of course we should be trying be doing this. But what I would suggest is maybe try it out in a small area, you know, as a pilot project somewhere, you know, I'm just guessing, or maybe it's up in Nepal, you know, try it out there first, like a small area. They also have an arc. Ram is here, so he'll be able to say about this. So maybe we can, you know, do things like that as a pilot project, and then see if we can really make this work. Because as I said, it's a very heterogeneous region, not like China, which is very uniform in many respects. I'm talking about the administrative part. I'm not talking about the cultivation part. So these challenges are there. That's one part. The second part about the relevance, of course, as we all know, management is one aspect of the potato growing crop, but it's a very important aspect. And I would like to differ a bit by saying that it is not about resistance, it is about the sensibility. So you really know which fungicide works or does not work. So that I think is
Yes,
a very primary information. It is not a very sophisticated information. For the farmer, it is a very primary information. Does this work or does it not work? Especially in these economies where they are, you know, not everyone's a big farmer. So it's a point of economics also. You know, it's a waste of their resource spraying something which does not work and ultimately the crop fails. So I think it has a direct benefit. You know, as you said, what benefit are we giving the farmers? So you just have to give it some time. You know, maybe like 6 months or 1 year. That's why I was stressing that we must do it within this window. If you can do it in this window, the very next year, you know, this year of course we can't apply it because by that time the crop will be grown. So next year we'll have some base data to work on. So you need some gestation period to say that what use is this? We will get the results after maybe a year. So these are just like 2 points which I wanted to add to what Franco said. So we must this in mind, like who's going to do it, and also there are internal networks already there. Where are we going to do it? Where are we going to start? So these things, I think we need to also think about. Yeah, that's it, Philip.
Okay, thanks. Francois,
yes,
would you like to respond to that? Yeah.
yes, yeah, no, I agree completely. Yeah. My point was not to say that we have to do this kind of list immediately and completely, but I think we should have this idea in mind that we should like start to open the list, and as far as we can,
Yes.
each of you, because I'm not in Asia, but each of you, maybe I can help for some area where I have collaborations, but each of the partners in AsiaBlight could start collecting this kind of information for his or her specific regions, and maybe he knows some information for neighboring regions too, or he can put into contact with some others. And of course, there might be regions where it is useless to try to work for some political reasons. It could be just troubles, but it can also be like it is difficult to collaborate for different reasons. I understand that completely. But I think there are many other regions where there is like a call for please come and help us. We need some help. We don't know how to start. And of course, this could be our target. I mean, the regions where there are some people which are already busy and who don't want to collaborate, we cannot force them to do it. But at least we could identify this area, that's all. And maybe in a few years, there will be some new scientists who will be there, or new companies that will be operating there who might be interested to collaborate in the future. So my point is not to say that we have to first do the list and then we do other things, but we should start that work as we can with the small resources that we have, which are the participations of the members, that's all. And then the second thing is, yes, you are right. I said the resistance, but of course, the information about the sensitivity is very important. But I think that is where the information that I suggest to gather is very useful. Because, for example, one of the data that we would need is who is distributing the fungicides in the potato production basin. And if we can identify a few operators who have a very important action somewhere, those people should be informed, although they may not be directly involved in research or in specialized potato extension. I remember when I went to Myanmar, there were two big companies that were distributing fungicides, and they said they want to involve themselves in a kind of extension, like replacing the unexisting public extension network, because the public extension network has no means. They can't do anything. And they said, we can do that until the public officers can start some work. But before that, we are willing to introduce those, of course, I was trying to promote the warning system, but so they were saying, we want to promote those warning system, and please tell us what fungicide we should suggest. So this is, I think this goes exactly in the way you were saying. So if we can identify that these and these fungicides are efficient in some area, we should, if we can have identified before who is a main actor in distributing the fungicides, we can sensibilize those persons. Please make this fungicide available and maybe avoid some other fungicides for which the efficiency is low, or for which there are resistance. So I think it's not at all contradictory. I think we go in the same direction, but I think we have to combine the two methods. And then we can explain that if people like Sure or like fungicide companies complain, we can tell them, please provide us more information. And then we can, by using such a tool, we can make more efficient results appearing in the field.
Sure.
But so, okay, I fully agree with you. Huh? But I think we should combine these two approaches.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And since we are discussing the problems with the potato, I think another major issue in this region is the availability of quality seeds. That's another big issue. So I'm just like putting it on record, not to discuss that now, but so that's something also we need to look in the future. Okay, so that's it. I think Rashidul has a question. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Thomas, to give me the opportunity. But my thinking is completely different because you are debating with the population analysis or also the decision support system. But you know the world moving too fast, too fast, too fast. So we need science-based knowledge sharing, not like the thinking what we are talking in this forum. So my specific comments is we need to share the science-based knowledge. For example, rapid screening of the pin infestance isolates. Again, for example, the rapid screening for fungicide resistance or sensitive pin infestance isolate. How we can do that? If we have the molecular marker, so that we can do it very fast using the same sample, we'll do it during the FTA card sampling. That is the things we need. And another thing is, in the meantime, for potato escape, they develop the escape-net software and deep learning process, deep learning techniques they are using. So image analysis. So far, I know the Professor Steino, they developed the LAMP techniques. If we can apply or deploy these LAMP techniques and also the deep learning things to identify the latent infection in potato tubers, that is very much aligned with the recent publication by Professor Sanjay. So these are the things we need, in fact. And another is how we can store these pin infestants, these homicides, in the resource-limited countries like Bangladesh and other Asian countries. So these are the things we need to settle. And genotyping is regular things. We need to do it to monitor the change of the pathogen population in the region, and decision support system also we need, but it must be unique to all the countries. I always in favor of this system, and also as a scientist, I also support the population monitoring of the infestants using the genotyping and others. But at this moment, if you can provide or help us from any group of the researcher, other country, Europe or America, if they have some molecular marker, so that we can go for rapid screening of the infestants, the fungicide resistance marker. I don't know, maybe Professor, someone working at Aarhus University, they have been trying to develop the molecular marker for rapid screening. So if you could provide that would be a great help for us. These are the things we need. LAMP we need to detect the latent infection in potatoes. We need the deep learning techniques to detect the latent infection in potatoes. These are the things we need, in fact. My specific things, that means we need some more. Our expectation is too high from this network. Since our advisor is a world famous legendary scientist, right?
Right. Yes.
So
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
too high. My
Right.
expectation is too high, so because the science moving fast. So could you please help us, Professor Fry, that how we can go for rapid screening for resistant development in pea infestants by molecular marker, or deep learning technique to detect latent infection in tuber, or LAMP we can use in this type of nation, for example, the developing countries like Bangladesh, So these are the things we need.
Bill, just let me jump in quickly before you respond to that wonderful comment about your, superhero kind of status as a scientist. It would be great if you could also respond to some of the points that Francois and Sanjoy have talked about as well. That's possible. Thank you.
Debate is I support both the things. Definitely, we need to go for monitoring of the population changes in this type of pathogen. Without monitoring of the population, you cannot develop the targeted management practices in the region. And another is also we have to develop or expand the decision support system that we recently validated in Bangladesh. If possible, we can. I don't know whether the Chinese government provide this fund or not, but still we are waiting. They will give us positive feedback. I don't know, but it would be a great help for us if they provide. I don't know, but we have been suffering in Bangladesh because U.S. government, stopped the all fundings like USAID, USDA, everything is stopped here. So you cannot imagine even what is happening here in Bangladesh.
What's happening in the United States is also awful. It's just politically is just it's just a mess. But I think what we can all agree on is that there are lots and lots of problems, and I think everyone is resource limited, and I think that's a huge issue. So I don't have any particular helpful insight as to how to overcome a lot of those issues. It does seem to me that, and Philip and Sanjay, perhaps you can help with the my recollection. In the meeting, did people agree to do the fungicide testing, or and they thought it was a good idea, but did they agree to actually do it?
Yeah, they did. So, I don't think that was a 100%. I think that the people that didn't want to do it didn't, say anything. So, I'm sure there'll be people that don't want to do it and don't want to implement it, but or ones that said they could do it, but later, won't do it. I'm sure that will be the case as well. But yeah.
Well, I do think that a reminder to them would be a very helpful thing to see if they can get the isolates and begin the assays. Rashid has a raise a hand.
Yeah. We want to correlate the molecular marker and the phenotypic assay together for the fungicide resistance or sensitivity. That is the things we need, so that we can ask the company man, okay, your fungicides are not working. Already the population develop resistance against this. So please stop the manufacturing of this type of product and try to find out the new one. So that's the things. We need the rapid screening. If for example, if I isolate, then purify it, better than us. Okay, so it's a huge work to purify it and then go for screening, then tabulate this data, everything. So what we can do, if we can go for rapid screening and identify, okay, this zone we got the resistant pin infest and isolate, and then go for rapid screening, then check in the laboratory for their phenotype and link with the molecular findings. So that's the thing we need.
Right, but those all require quite a bit of resources and an infrastructure that can support it. And I think that's the limiting factor is the infrastructure to support those kinds of things. And that's an issue on which I am just completely helpless, I guess. I just don't know how to accomplish that. Also, it's not completely clear to me that there are molecular markers for all fungicide resistances. I know of a couple, but there are quite a few others that I think do not exist. So I think the molecular markers will not always be helpful because we don't have them yet. Sanjoy?
Yeah. Okay, let me get my hand down. Okay, yeah. So, a couple of comments. So first of all, as you rightly said, they are not there all, but even the ones that we have, like we have a specific experience of using a few markers for not infestants for Phytophthora melonis, another related genus, related species. What we found was it has a very high azoxostrobin resistance. So the known regions for resistance, I mean the sequences that the mutation that there is, we screened them. We screened those. We found that there was no mutations in those regions where they were supposed to be. Now we have mutations in other regions, and they are highly resistant. So you see, even if you have the marker, so that will keep changing. So that's point one. point two, of course, as you say, if you need, so this sort of technique or facility should be there in the referral labs. You obviously cannot have it everywhere. So, as Professor Islam was saying, that this technology, of course, some of it is there, some of it you have to develop, and wherever it is there in the referral labs. It is not like in all labs have it. And as you said, the resources are limited. So that's one very important point. And who's doing this? I think, not I think, I know for a fact that Syngenta's, one of the Syngenta's lab, they're actually doing this fungicide screening using the molecular markers. And then there, recently there was a course in APS, fungicide sensitivity course very recently. So they had that, so this, I forgot his name. I can look it up, I can share with you, Professor Islam. So he was doing it actually on a regular basis for Syngenta. Of course, for commercial purposes, not for helping us or anything like that. So this is a very dynamic and a fluid situation. Even if you have one marker, you really need to sequence the whole portion of that of the purported gene, and even that resistance might just pop up somewhere else, and you still have resistance to that fungicide. So you need a lot of resource, and again, this resource needs to be there in the referral labs. Maybe CCAP itself as a referral lab, if it does something like that, that's fine. But we really cannot expect many of our labs to have that sort of infrastructure and expertise. And of course, things are moving forward, and we need to keep abreast. That much I agree with you 100%, Professor Islam.
Yes, because
another quick thing, small thing is that scab. We are doing some work. So because we are very adjacent, so I'll share the markers, the results, and lab things with you if you're interested. That much I can help you. Okay.
Yes, that is the things. People do it for banana fusarium wilt. Working in the university, they develop some good techniques, LAMP, and then the countries like Bangladesh, we are using this technique for rapid screening, on-field diagnosis or on-spot diagnosis. The things we can tell the growers, okay, these are tier 4 infected banana orchards, so you should restrict the movement, everything, and please stop the spread of these things. So that's why my question is here. So please help us this type of things, so that your report clearly showed that, right? The latent infection. This is very crucial. That is important.
I think Annie has a point as well. So
Okay.
maybe
I want to add one point about the sensitivity test. So I believe that every institution, every country has different the equipments or facilities. And I think what Sanjoy already taught in the trainings is we can do as the basic research, that we can collect the data, because I think the sensitivity test that we learned from Sanjoy is everyone can do. No need for a very sophisticated equipment. So, and also, even though like in my case now, I still don't have any a funding research for the potato, we can do independently, because what we need is to collect the symptoms, and also to prepare the leaves. And so in that, I think we can use it for all as the baseline for our collection data in Asia and our community. And of course, after that, we can move for further. So depends on the what every institution have and every problems in the country. So I think that's also very important points. That, but of course, in doing that, even though it's maybe simple, but some areas also have struggle. So maybe we can ask for the reminder for making a list of the progress report, a kind of progress report. What are the problems? So at least we can collect this as our baseline report first. That's my point.
Yeah, thank you, Annie. I think you brought some logic into all of this. So I think, yeah, so my take on this, and if I reflect a little bit back on some of the meetings that we had in 2025 when we were discussing implementation for this season, my understanding was that basically what Annie just said was that the reason that we want to do these assays is because it's an easy entry point for everybody. And for that reason, we don't need any, big resources, expensive funding or anything like that. Everybody can do it. And that was
Yeah.
part of the reason that we wanted to do this. It's the first time that we are collectively doing one activity as a group. And I think that that was part of the reason that we wanted to implement this as well, because we could collect data from across all of the region. Responding to the point that Francois was making earlier as well, it seems, Sanjoy, that this, based on your comments, Sanjoy, this could be something that we would like to look into further. And maybe if we were in a position to work on this idea of the basins idea, of how specific regions within, or sub-regions, I guess, across Asia may have commonalities, and that how those, if they could work together, might be a great way to move forward. But of course, implementation would be a sticking point there as well. So from my bird's eye view perspective, I think that something like that could be a way for us to, or something for us to look at moving forward. And like you said, Sanjoy, also having a pilot project for that as well might be useful. Based on Rashidul's comments as well, I think that probably everybody here in this room would like to do those activities, but not everybody has those resources. And if I was then to go back to some of the comments that Francois made about how does it impact the farmers, I think that that's just so far away from what's happening in the field that actually it would be very difficult it wouldn't really make sense in the field to farmers to say that we want to do molecular analysis of, resistance and things like that. So that's my take on it. The reason I'm kind of doing this little summary at this point of this very nice discussion that you've had is that I'm looking at the clock as well. And I know that we also have other things that we'd like to talk about. Francois, I see you put your hand up there. If you have a very quick point, keep it brief, and then we can move on to some other discussions as well, if possible.
Yes, I have been in contact with several participants, and also with some, not directly, I would not call them diplomats, but sub-diplomats or administrative staff of embassies of Belgium. And actually, I think we could identify a kind of family, although we don't have this list already. But I think we could try to set up a kind of next workshop, gathering countries and like Laos, countries and provinces like Laos, Yunnan, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Nepal, I'm not sure, and Thailand. So I think all those countries, they have, I'm not completely sure, but I think they have quite similar conditions, maybe even Indonesia and Malaysia, but I'm not sure. But in the country I cited first, I have already contact with the Belgian embassy in Delhi, which is covering India and Bangladesh. I have contact with the embassy in Thailand, in Bangkok, which is covering Thailand and Laos. I have contacted the Belgian embassy in Vietnam and in China. And all of them would be interested in supporting not a very large activity. I first suggested to fund a meeting in Laos for the whole AsiaBlight, but it seems it's too expensive. It will be too difficult to fund that. But have a sub-regional meeting, maybe in Laos or in Vietnam, might be something possible. So that's an idea I was willing to suggest. Would you agree if I go on with this idea of trying to collect data about the biogeographical conditions of those areas, and see if we can create there a kind of first family of potato production basin in what I would call a subtropical mountainous area or something like that, which I think have quite similar production conditions and would be, because they are in a quite limited range of distance. I mean, it's a few hundreds, maximum 1,000 kilometers if we don't take into account Malaysia and Indonesia. But I think if we take those areas around Laos, it could be a kind of first group that could share some results. And I think the example of what they are doing in Yunnan could be already interesting. Of course, we have to identify whether the strains are the same and so on. I fully agree with that. But we could have at least one area where there are already some good successes, Yunnan, and in Vietnam they are starting to have some good results too. In Bangladesh you have some good results. So I think sharing the result into that small group would maybe be a good like pilot project, like you said, Sanjoy. So what do you think? If you agree, I can send a proposal to the Belgian embassies in those different countries. Of course, it would if we get some funds from them, we will have to give some priority. Maybe there will be a Belgian diplomat coming or something like that to say that Belgium is supporting this activity. But I think it's not a problem if they can provide some help. What do you think? Should I go on for that?
Philip, I think Philip would be the
No,
best
I
person
think
to
it's
answer
your
that.
job to respond to that. It's your job, not mine.
No, because
You're the chair on
it's
this. No,
yeah, no,
it's
but
you.
it's AsiaBlight, so you are the
Okay. Well,
I mean,
I'm totally happy with that. But I think in terms of
yeah,
scientific level, I
I
think you
just
need to.
forgot to mention, yeah, Franco. I mean,
Yeah.
Uthao from Laos had contacted me straight after the training. I
Yeah.
forgot to mention that, and he put in touch with two of his colleagues or two people who were in this, but then somehow they never got back to me. So I forgot to mention that. Other than Philippines, they also. No, I mean, I don't know about the. Of course, if it can go forward, there's nothing like this. But I mean, can we like, as Franco has said, a regional meet, but not with all the members? If that is permissible with AsiaBlight, fine, go ahead, no problem. I do not know the technicalities of that. Like, can some of us meet and go forward on the AsiaBlight banner if that is permissible? I think it's fantastic. I mean, we have that pilot project to start off with. So that part, that technicality, I don't know. That's why I was telling you, Philip. I was referring to you.
I mean, my take on this is that, if Francois, I mean, basically what Francois
I'm not sure. I cannot
is,
guarantee,
yeah,
but I can try.
absolutely. You're proposing an idea, you can try. Who knows whether it will work or not? And I think, doing something is better than not doing anything at all.
Absolutely.
So if there's any funds available, we should see whether or not it's possible. And, if we get some funds, maybe there's some activities and we can sort of do something towards the area that Francois is proposing. So I think it's really something that we should try. Who knows if it would work? If it does, great. So that's my take on it. But Bill, yeah.
So I want to emphasize, agree with your point, Philip, that doing something is a whole lot better than doing nothing. I think for the network, I think that would make a huge difference. So the idea is really interesting. If something would come from it, that would be wonderful. But I think just getting together would also be a very helpful activity.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, so I think in terms of that discussion, I think probably we should wrap that up a little bit now, kind of put a big wall around it now. And then maybe I'll follow up with some minutes and things like that to provide that. Okay, so let's move on to some other points. So in the previous communication that I shared with scientific committee members, I'd asked whether there was any specific points that people wanted to share with the committee. for activities during the year. I see you put your hand up there, Francois. So I mean, I can let you respond first. I mean, I have other people that would like to share things as well.
Yes, yes.
So we have points from Sanjoy, Francois, and then Tong Lehu from China. So Francois, if you'd like to begin, I mean, do you need reminding what your point was, or you're okay to go for it?
No, I'm okay, and I have another one.
Oh, okay,
so the
good.
first one is just to inform you that there will be the AsiaBlight meeting that is in May on, let me check. It will be May 18 to 20. There will be AsiaBlight, and it will be organized in Spain. So I will join, and my colleague Maxime from Cara will join also, because he is carrying out a project of implementing the warning system of Cara in that region. It is in the region of Vigo. It's in the northwest of Spain, very near to I don't know exactly how to say, Saint Jacob of Compostelle or something like that, Saint Jacques de Compostelle. So they produce potato there, and they are implementing a warning system. They are testing it in that region. So Maxime and myself will be there. I was asking if some other members of AsiaBlight would join, and if nobody is joining, then I was asking if I can ask you to contribute to a presentation that I would report at that group, just to keep them informed of what we are doing in AsiaBlight. So that's one point. Then immediately after, I will go to Tomato Morocco. So it's not potato, but Tomato Morocco. So this Tomato Morocco is organized by a group which is actually also organizing a Potato Morocco conference. So the Tomato Morocco conference is held on the 21st of May. So actually the last day of the AsiaBlight meeting, but I will go there because they have a lot of problems of late blight in tomato. They have problems of late blight in potato, but in tomato too, and they want to know more about warning systems. So I ask you the same question. My idea was to also explain how we are working in AsiaBlight and what have been the activities of AsiaBlight. But I will report AsiaBlight and AsiaBlight there in Morocco. Then I make the connection with the next activity, which is the World Potato Congress. So again, Maxime and myself, Maxime is invited to attend the World Potato Congress, and I think I will also attend, but I'm not still completely sure. And that will be in October in Nairobi, in Kenya. So the president, Van der Zaak, the president of World Potato Congress, Van der Zaak, contacted me, and he asked me if I could introduce AsiaBlight and try to encourage the raising of something like Africa Blight. Indeed, Cara has already 3 partners, one in Congo, one in Rwanda, and one in Guinea, where we have the small warning system, pilot warning system running with 2 or 3 weather stations in each of those countries. And we would like to suggest that some other African countries may join. So that's the point. And I also encourage the Moroccan partners to join also in the World Potato Congress. So my question is, are there some other of you who will be joining at the World Potato Congress? So the dates are, I think it's in October.
Can I respond to that first, if that's
But
possible?
it's not urgent, of course. It's 26 to 31st of October. It's not urgent, but just in case. So
Yeah. So Francois, my first point on that, yeah. So personally, I would be very happy. I'm very happy for you to contribute to all of these meetings. I think that's really positive for sharing the message of what AsiaBlight is doing. I think that from at least from my perspective, if you're going to be preparing a presentation about AsiaBlight, I'd be very happy to contribute to that and give any information that would be available. And likewise for the meeting in Morocco as well. The regarding the World Potato Congress, I don't know exactly whether I will be participating in that, but I think it's highly likely that I will be there. And yeah, Peter van der Zaag, I think that if he's asking you to present on Euroblight and potentially you're going to be talking about AsiaBlight as well, I think also I think that's great. And if you are able to present on AsiaBlight, I think that would be good, and I'd be happy to contribute to that as well. Regarding the point that you had about Africa Blight, I think that I would suggest that you might communicate with Jan Lowe. I don't know whether you're aware of Jan Lowe. Do you know who she is? She was the World Food Prize lady that worked for SIP. Now she's a consultant working with SIP. So Janlow, so last name is Lowe, Low. As part of her work plan, I understand that she also is interested in introducing Africa Blight. And so she's been communicating with me as well, thinking about the model of AsiaBlight being introduced into Africa as well. So you may want to sort of overlap that as well and discuss that with her. Okay, and I thank you. I think probably Kalpana has something to add because she's based in Nairobi as well. But
yes,
okay. Yeah, Kalpana.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Sorry, Philip. You have covered most of the things with regard to Africa Blight. I was also in that meeting with Janlo. We proposed some ideas because there is some interest on establishing the Africa Blight network for Africa. Regarding World Potato Congress, yes, it would be good because it is going to be a big platform for connection, showcasing, and South-to-South collaboration also. I may be there. I'm based there, so it's highly likely that I will be there.
Great.
And in
Thank you
case
for
any support needed, if a team agrees to come, we may also have one day separately to meet in person, have meetings. That could be organized too.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Kalpana. So Francois, I can give you Jan Lou's email address if you're
Yes,
interested.
thank you.
You can communicate with her. Okay, anybody else would like to respond to that?
Yeah, just Frank, it's just to Frank, like one quick thing, you are the AsiaBlight liaison member, so anybody tells about Euroblight, you chip in with AsiaBlight,
Sorry,
because
excuse me?
I said
I
you're the
did not hear.
AsiaBlight liaison member.
Yes.
Yeah, so anytime people tell you about Euroblight, you put in,
Okay.
the AsiaBlight's perspective there, because I think in WPC they asked you about Euroblight and about Africa Blight, potential Africa Blight. So I think you can easily put in AsiaBlight over there to
Yes,
represent
actually,
us.
Peter van der Zaag contacted me
Yeah,
about
I know.
AsiaBlight and tried to encourage Africa Blight from the experience of AsiaBlight.
No, I'm just, on a lighter note. So, and another thing about that tomato thing, if we have some experience with that, I can send you a slide maybe, if you want.
Yes, sure.
Photo experiences.
Yes, actually, we did a small experiment in Belgium with the Vietnamese partners when they came for a training, and they did some other trials in Vietnam too. So yes, I would be very interested if you have more results on late blight in tomato. I'm very interested.
That's all. Yeah. Thank you.
I suggested
Okay, so-
that
oh,
maybe
sorry.
we could search for some scientist experts in tomato, but the meeting will be in French in Morocco. So all the conferences must be made in French. But maybe later we can try to do some collaboration with them too.
No problem for Sanjoy. None at all. So, okay.
Okay.
You have 3 months to learn French.
Exactly. Okay, so let's move on. So maybe Sanjoy, would you like to come up with your suggestions
Yeah.
as well, please?
No, I had a suggestion considering that we address many regions and there are many events. So I thought of proposing a newsletter for AsiaBlight. And the newsletter obviously will be digital. And Philip had some concern as to who's going to like coordinate that. So I had a solution saying that many of the stuff is already there. Much of the stuff is already there in the website. He posts news and events from various parts. So I said, why not put it on a newsletter? In the newsletter also, you'll have maybe like short write-ups or short news from or events or discoveries or whatever it is, like something, which can go around the region, and that can also be used to showcase AsiaBlight and distribute it to other networks. Just like the EuroBlight has a network, has a newsletter. Similarly, AsiaBlight, I would propose that we have a newsletter. For the moment, it can be like twice a year. And then, if you have more material, it can be faster. So that was one of the proposals I had. That's it.
Yeah,
Philip.
thank you, Sanjoy. Yeah, you've basically spoke my previous point, but yeah, so I think that my biggest concern though is that beyond the who would actually do it, I think initially probably I would end up doing it. So I think the problem is though that we could maybe, based on the information that's on the AsiaBlight website at the moment, we could maybe do one newsletter. But then what comes next? And so I think that if we had a culture, AsiaBlight culture of sharing any positive news from each of the regions or highlights from newspapers
Exactly.
or reporting or something, and share that internally, so I don't know, share it to me maybe or something like that, then I might be in an easier position to actually
Yes.
sort of create this newsletter, a digital newsletter like you suggest. So, I think what we should do is encourage people to share information. Maybe some people feel embarrassed talking about information about themselves or something like that. But, if we want to share the, information more broadly, I think that's probably a good way of doing it and maybe overcome some of those feelings of
Inhibitions.
being too proud or whatever. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, but yeah, I'm fine with that. I'd be happy to encourage that sort of information sharing. But I think that we do need to promote that more frequent sharing of information with each other as well. The information that is on AsiaBlight, I've just done searches on Google just to find that information. So there's no strategy involved in that. It's just randomly, oh, I know that person. This person's in AsiaBlight. Great news. We should share that on the website. So yeah. So if we want to do this, I think that we should encourage people to share more information more frequently.
So that means another mail. You send out another mail.
I know you love my emails, Enjoy.
I know, yeah.
I know you also have trouble tracking my emails as well. So it's like
Yeah, it gets buried deep. Okay, yeah. So that
Point
sounds like a
taken,
good
point
idea.
taken.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So the final point, and we have 10 minutes left to this meeting. And this was from Tong Le Hu, Professor Tong Le Hu. So this is a bit more, there's multiple ideas here, and so it's a multiple step suggestion. So if I read it to everybody, and then maybe Sanjoy, if you could respond.
No,
So he's
nobody from China. I didn't see anybody from China in
yeah,
this
nobody.
meeting.
So yeah, Tong Le Hu said that he would join, but unfortunately, it seems he's not able to join this meeting now. Um, that
Okay.
happens sometimes. People say they will join and they're not able to make it. So I would prefer that if Tong Le did this directly, but he did share it with me private by email. So okay, so what he said in terms of the next step activities, he suggests that there would be training for better potato late blight management. Maybe I could just share my document. That might be easier rather than just listening to my horrible voice. Let me get that. There we go. Please let me know if you can see this. Oops, let's move everybody to the side. Can you see this? Yeah, you can see it. Good. Okay, so he says step
Yes,
one, yeah, you got it. Country representatives find out the key pain points for PLB management in different planting regions within each country. The scientific committee and experts within and beyond AsiaBlight network work together to provide practical and affordable advice to each region accordingly. Step 3, the scientific committee and experts within and beyond AsiaBlight network work together to help the country representatives to develop training materials for the growers. Step 4, country representatives give training to Extension Farmer Association staff within their own country. Step 5, Extension Farmer Association staff give training to the farmers to improve the management for PLB. Okay, so I think that what we can see from this, there's a progression from like a flow of training and capacity. So it's going from the country representative or regional representatives to the scientific committee, and then from there that would eventually reach to the point of the country representatives giving the same capacity building to extension and farmer association staff, and so forth. So Sanjoy, would you like to respond to these? Do you want me to keep sharing, or would you?
Yeah, it would help if you share.
Yeah, okay.
So I think this is somewhat in a different form, like what Franco has suggested. I
Yeah.
think it's almost, of course, there are certain differences, but it is in that same spirit and vein.
Yes.
I think. So again, so I almost have the same comments also about how difficult it is to get that information and how geographically and geopolitical things are different. But I would say the same thing. We can start somewhere. So I think we are already starting. The first Franco suggested Laos and that region we are starting. So let us see what happens over there, and see. There can be like many feedback to the scientific community. Like what he says is the key problems. Maybe in China they can identify the problems because it's a more homogeneous and it's one structure compared to in the rest of Asia. So it would be easier to implement there. So I think I would wait with what Francois's results give us, and then go head on into this. But I think we are already doing a part of that. Again, going back to the fungicides training, that we are actually the country representatives will actually disseminate that information for the management. So partially the idea was behind the training for this partially, but I think today what Franco has said, I think that sort of covers most of it. And my take would be to let us start with what Franco has said, and then because that would be implementing this also partially, and then we can go forward from there. I think Dr. Fry has something to say on this. He's put up his hand.
Yeah. Over to you, Bill.
Right. It seems to me that step one could be the topic of one or two AsiaBlight Zoom meetings. And that might be really a useful, but a real contributive, if people are willing to talk and to say what those points are, I think that could be just a really nice way to start that. And I think step one alone would be really quite a considerable activity. So it really could be a nice, but series of agenda items for the network for meetings.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Does anybody else have any points?
Yes, so I fully agree with Dr. Fry, of course. I think, yes, that would be a good thing if we could have a meeting with all the partners, or maybe not all, but maybe we should divide the whole group so that we can go in deep for each region, try maybe to calculate how much time it would need to discuss one region or something like that. And then maybe we could have a kind of basic questionnaire that we could send in advance to the different participants, which should not be completely filled, but which should be a base to think about different points that might be important, and the different point will be different. There will be different answers, and different points will have different importance in the different regions. Of course, in some regions, some aspect will be important and not relevant for others. But if we could have a kind of questionnaire with most of the basic points which should be thought about by the country representatives, I think that would be a good base to start. And then we can have a meeting with a group, maybe 10% or something like that, not more in the beginning, so that we can collect the data. What do you think? Or should we have general? I'm afraid if we have general meetings, nobody can go in deep in the description of one area.
Sandro.
Yeah, I mean, as Dr. Fry says, step one could be a good point for discussion, but it is actually to get that information would involve a lot of work, because many regions have like different climate conditions and different problems. So it would be again, in most places it's just the country representatives and maybe one or two people. We don't have a AsiaBlight like. AsiaBlight, like how not many people are involved. There are one or two, maybe one in most places. So to get that information is one big challenge. Number one. Number two, as I said earlier, some countries have very good networks, and that information, collecting that information would be,
easy,
let's say, sensitive to be shared. So these considerations also there. I mean, people are willing to do that. We can go ahead, but I think not everyone can actually give that information, because this is also sensitive information. Actually, what are the problems if you look at it in that perspective? So, and because there are inherent governments in each country, and different governments have different structures. So that's why I said it would be a big challenge to first of all collate that information, and also to whether we can some countries can actually share that information. So that also we've got to keep in mind. For those who do not have a problem, we can go ahead. So that was just my caveat. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock now, so I'm going to stop sharing that. Okay, so I think we need to try and wrap this meeting up now. So that's 90 minutes already, and I'm sure that you guys could keep talking for a lot longer. So I noticed that we haven't really had any points from Annie or Ram, maybe Rashidul as well. I wonder whether there are any burning points from these three people. If no, I think that we could probably, the one last point that we probably need to consider is the date for the first meeting of the regional of AsiaBlight online. So I think that we should also think about that as well. Maybe I will need to communicate with everyone about that, and also the agenda for that meeting as well. So when would be a good time to do that, and what would be the content of that meeting as well?
Yeah, before that you need to send 2 emails. One for the fungicide, and other for the newsletter.
Oh dear. Oh, Tonglin, who's here now? Oh wow, gosh. Okay. Just as we're about to wrap up. Okay, I'll let him in anyway, but okay. Okay. Oh, empty room. Hello, Tonglin. Professor Hu.
Hello, Philip. I'm sorry, I'm too late because I have something emergency
Yeah.
this night. I go out without my phone. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
And no problem. So we just literally just a few seconds ago we finished talking about the points that you raised. I think that the meeting is about to finish now, so unfortunately we probably won't be able to go over those, but I will communicate some of the points afterwards by minutes, and I'll probably share a video as well, so that you'll be able to review your points as well. Okay, so but it's nice to see your face, and Happy New Year, by the way, Professor Hu.
Thank you.
So if there's no other burning points, I'd like to wrap this meeting up. So if anybody else has anything to say, if not, then just like to say thank you very much to everybody for joining. And I shall follow up with 2 emails, apparently, not just 1, but 2. And I'll try to spam Professor Sanjoy as much as possible. He appreciates that, I know. So yeah, but anyway, so thank you everyone very much for your participation and continued enthusiasm for the work of AsiaBlight. So looking forward to working with everybody in the scientific committee in 2026. So thank you, and wishing everybody in Asia a good night, and to those in Europe and in North America, have a great day and a good afternoon as well. Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sancho.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you then.
Nice to see
Thank
you
you.
all.
You are
Bye bye. Bye bye. Good night, Annie. You need
Bye.
sleep.
Bye.
almost
Bye-bye.
morning here.
I know.
Okay,
Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.